Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundy, it's over. We did not get our game 7 like we wanted, but we still got a pretty damn good Stanley Cup final. The Florida Panthers are your Stanley Cup champions in 2025. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the final game? What are your thoughts on how close do you think this series really was? Because it felt really close for a long time, but it also for stretches really felt like it was kind of lopsided, and a lot of games ended up going to OT.
Yeah, we were talking about how this could be like, an all-time cup finals, one of the best, and so on after the first two games, but still a good Stanley Cup final, but it definitely, I think, weighed down because, again, Florida kind of just ran over Edmonton in games 5 and 6. It, again, I've talked to some people agree with me, some people disagree. Edmonton just, at the end of the day, wasn't on Florida's level. We kind of talked at great lengths after game 6 and whatnot. And for me, there's a bunch of stuff people are saying, the stuff about Florida getting advantage with, the no taxes, the refs on their side, all these things. And yes, though, those are definitely a part of it. Those are things that we can't ignore. They are out there. They do exist. But I still feel regardless of it, they just were the better team at the end. You just look at their team from top to bottom, and again, I think they just outplayed Edmonton and were deeper in every area.
Yeah, I completely agree. They just were the better. They were the better team. It's crazy because the Oilers really can be on their level when they're at their best, but they really struggle to be their best consistently. Even in those games where they were great, they still had stretches, whether it was a single period or whenever, that they weren't that team. The game when they came back down from 3 goals, that's because in that first period they were downright terrible. Like just a ton of penalties, not playing good, like you name it. So they can turn it on, but they can't stay at that level. Florida, they had games where they looked better, but they never had games where it was like, oh, they're playing like shit out there. They didn't have really any of those.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like it's not to discredit Edmonton. I thought Edmonton was great throughout the playoffs. Again, like they were the best team in the West, and it
emphatically too.
They had to fight their way through the adversity in the first round, and they kind of steamrolled a couple. Well, again, I wasn't as high in Vegas this year as other people, but still a good Vegas team, and then a great Dallas Stars team rolled both of them, and it kind of goes back to what I sent to you after game 6, and McDavid saying, they were going in hoping to win a 2-1 game, and it was like that's not possible for them. You go into a game expecting like, all right, we're only going to score 2 goals, and all of a sudden, like, what was the stat? It was like, I think aside from game 2, which Florida ended up winning that game anyways. That game was 3-2 after the first period. Every other game from games 1 and then 3 to 6, it was like 2-0 or 3-0 Florida after the first.
Yeah.
If your mindset is going
real
in
bad
like
in the first period,
we're going to win this game 2-1, you're going in being like, we're only going to score 2 goals and we're going to win. All of a sudden it's like, well, now you're down 2, you're down 3. You did make the sweet comeback in game 4, which was nice, but if that's your mentality, I think you're already putting yourself in a tough spot. And again, the goaltending wasn't great for Edmonton. Like Stuart Skinner definitely did not, stand on his head in the finals here, kind of like he did in portions of the Vegas series, and then against Dallas for the most part. That definitely didn't help. But again, I mean, I can just keep saying congrats to the Florida Panthers. Just a juggernaut of a team. You look at it. I have it pulled up here. It changed it here. I wonder if it pops up for him here still. So their fourth line that they're running in the Cup final, Thomas Nosek, he was making $775,000 this year. AJ Greer, $850,000 this year. Jona Gadjevich, 775,000 this year. And then their bottom defensive pairing, Dmitry Kulikov, 1.15 million per year, and Nate Schmidt, 800,000 per year.
How is Nate Schmidt making so little money?
Well, so Nate Schmidt probably going to get paid pretty well this offseason by a team, I think. He wanted to go play for Paul Maurice because he was coached
Right.
by Paul Maurice and Winnipeg loved him. And Nate Schmidt at this point, he's 33 and he just wanted to go after a cup. And Florida was there and said, "We got an opening for you. Paul Maurice is here. Do you want to come
Yeah,
try
fair
and win?"
enough.
And he said, "Sign me up," and worked out
He's
well
just
for
a
him.
good
So
enough player. I'm shocked he, didn't get the 1 mil, the 1.5, like, something. But hey, if you
yeah,
want to win, you want to win. And 800K, that gives him plenty of wiggle room.
yeah. So and again, then you look at Edmonton and Jeff Skinner spent a lot of time this postseason as a healthy scratch. He was making, I think, 4 mil. Arvidsson was a healthy scratch in Game 6. He's making like 4 mil. Florida's bottom defensive pairing, which was great, and their fourth line, which was great, less money than what Edmonton had sitting in the press box
Yeah.
every game.
It's so
and again,
brutal.
it's just roster construction.
It really is. It's not the coach. I wouldn't even say it's the players. It really is the roster construction. Like the worst thing is, after last year, they had a lot of important guys with their contract being up, and they had so many of these guys come back under the guise of, we're all going to take less to try and win. They had Corey Perry come back for pennies on the dollar. Like, they have, who are some of these other guys here? I think Henrique definitely could have got more in some other places. Janmark re-signed for 2 years at less than 1.5 per year. Like, they had quite a few guys take a bit of a discount to stick around for 1 or 2 more years and try and give this cup run a go. And then they turn around, and with all that money, they give it to Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner, who just did not perform very well at all in the playoffs.
It was a fun experiment. I thought it was going to work out well. It really didn't. I mean, with Edmonton, there's obviously the big thing of you don't have Zach Hyman, which is definitely a big loss to your forward group. You did get Matthias Ekholm back, but despite being able to play, and he did have 6 points in 7 games, was just not very solid defensively.
Especially the last 2 games. The last 2 games, It was like he was noticeably one of their worst defensemen, and that's just not Ekholm's game. Like, we know it's because of those injuries. So
100%.
That really sucked. Like, just brutal.
And again, I pulled this stat up because I wanted to double check with it. I talked about it after Game 5, and I said if Edmonton wants even a chance to take it back home for Game 7 and potentially win the cup, it's got to come from McDavid and Draisaitl. That really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And McDavid in games 5 and 6, he had 1 goal. Was it -5? Leon Draisaitl in games 5 and 6, 1 goal, 1 assist, a -6. So combined 1 goal, 1 assist, and a -11 between the two of them, and a total of 6 shots on goal in games 5 and 6. You just can't have that.
No,
McDavid's
that's
obviously the
brutal.
number 1 player in the league, and Draisaitl, wherever you want to slot him, at the very lowest 5. You could make the argument for 2 if you wanted, and I would definitely hear you out. You need more production from him. That's just not good enough. And I know, guys play through injuries and whatnot, but you hear what, Matthew Tkachuk had his adductor torn off the bone. Sam Reinhart had a grade 2 MCL sprain. Alexander
Barkov's hand is all fucked up,
stitches
man.
across his entire palm. Like, yeah, injuries are a part of it. It definitely sucks, but again, your top 2 players, the guys that kind of carry the load for you all year, just And it's not due to lack of trying. It's Florida's so good defensively. Like Gustav Forsling.
You know
After this
what?
playoffs, he's right up there.
Generally, I agree. McDavid was trying.
He was trying.
Draisaitl didn't have very much dog in him for being in an elimination game in the Stanley Cup final.
He didn't have that killer instinct.
Like -4, that's horrendous. What's worse than that to me is the 0 shots on goal.
0. Yeah.
Like
it's 100%.
Like NHL goals this year. Who had what was the goal scoring in this regular season? Because like
we know he's number 1.
He won the Rocket, but like I just want to see the stats on it because he also missed, I think it was like 11 games. Like it was a substantial amount of time, probably enough that it cost him the Hart Trophy. Yeah, Draisaitl played 71, so he missed 11 games, and he still won the Rocket by 7 goals. The second highest scorer was William Nylander. Shout out Willie. Good season. He had 45. Draisaitl had 52 and 71. He plays a full 82 games. That's probably up to 56, 57 goals. And he had 0 shots on goal in that elimination game. Like, you are the best goal scorer currently in the NHL. I'm sure next year it'll be Matthews again, but right now he's kind of the man. And he didn't get 1 on net. That's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, and the number one thing I noticed with Edmonton was they went with their normal lineup, whatever they had set up their game plan going in. The moment Florida got that first goal, like 5-ish minutes in from Sam Reinhart, and don't worry, we'll talk more about Sam Reinhart here in a bit. But after that first one, Edmonton immediately went to, all right, McDavid and Draisaitl, you're back on a line together.
Yeah,
and it was like, well, shit. Now what? It's just tough without having a guy like Zach Hyman. Your depth is fucking depleted if you just stack McDavid and Draisaitl together on that top line. Very dominant in the Dallas series.
They were just torn to shreds at that point. Like Nuge was so injured, he wasn't playing normally. Yeah. Hyman's not even in the lineup. Like those are your top 2 wingers. Like,
without Hyman, Nuge is your 3rd best forward,
and he's playing at 30% in that last game, probably. Like he wasn't at all himself.
And I don't think it's even crazy to say I would probably take 7, at least 6, potentially 7 Panthers players on my team before I would take Nugent Hopkins.
Over Nugent Hopkins?
Yeah, I honestly think I would take 7 Panthers.
I mean, Verhaeghe, yes. Barkov, yes. Reinhart, yes. Bennett, he won the Conn Smythe. You have to. Tkachuk, yes.
Marchand.
Marchand, as long as we're talking about the playoff run, absolutely.
Lundell.
I mean, if we're just talking about the playoff run, Lundell, yes. Luosterainen, yes. Rodriguez is the only guy in the top 9 that maybe is a no. I think I'd take Nuge over him.
Luosterainen going into Game 6 here was 3rd in the playoffs in even strength points. After Sam Reinhart, did what he did, Luosterainen ended up tied for 2nd or 3rd in even strength points in the playoffs, only behind McDavid and Draisaitl. So it's like you're basically 1st because you're probably not going to finish with more even strength points than those guys. And again, that's what it comes down to. Yes, the Zach Hyman injury was a killer, but it's just Florida was so deep, and they got, everybody's contributing from 1st line to 4th line, 1st defensive pairing to 3rd defensive pairing.
They had a lot of guys step up and play above their skill level. Podkolzin was great for them. I would not mind at all if they wanted to bring him back. I'm not seeing him on the list here. Players.
Who are you looking for?
Kasperi Kapanen was very good for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I thought he was really noticeable when he was in the lineup. for them.
They had a lot of guys show up out of nowhere and be real solid. There was quite a few guys that like came back from last year that I didn't notice as much. You know, Adam Henrique, Matthias Janmark, they didn't I think they were both playing. I didn't really notice them at all, good or bad. But yeah, they were injured, they were undisciplined, like
Undisciplined was a big part of it too.
I think
again, not saying that the refs were great, but Edmonton was handing them penalties that they're like, well, yeah, why would we not call that? Like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff they missed, but like it almost seemed like again, obviously it's not like they were trying to, but it seemed like some players in Edmonton were going out of their way to be like, hey, ref, you want to call this? And then like boom, would do something. The ref's like, yeah, if you're gonna do that, fuck, I'll call it all day.
It was either game 4 or 5. I think it was game 4 because it was in Florida where I think it was Nurse and Kane I think Kane took 2 penalties. You know, I think he took 3 in a row. And then while they were killing off the third one, Nurse goes into the corner and just the most blatant, obvious slew foot I've ever seen. Just like kicked the back of Barkov's skate out from under him while he had the puck. The refs have nowhere else to be looking. It's the most obvious thing in the world. And it's like, sure, you just took 3 penalties. You really think they're not going to call that just to try and game manage it? Like, no, you goon. Obviously, they're going to call that. Like, there was a lot of dumb plays by, honestly, not a ton of their players. For the amount of dumb penalties they had, it sure was coming from the same few guys a lot.
Yeah. But then in game 6 here, it felt like a totally different vibe. You know, you look at it, neither team even got a power play. Kane and Bennett got the offsetting penalties in the first, and then Kane got the 10-minute misconduct at near the end of the game. So it was all just 5-on-5 even strength. And again, I was kind of going into the game, I was kind of like, you know, if someone said, oh, here's $1,000, who you put it on, I probably would have went with Florida. Just that was kind of the feeling. You know, if Edmonton won, like, great, we get a game 7. But realistically, I was kind of like, Florida's probably going to win. But
yeah,
if you told me at one point it was going to be 5-0, I would not have believed that for a second. I would have been like, there's no way that it's, 5-0.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to.
Oh, man. It was crazy. And I really do think this series was very heavily focused on the players. I think a lot of the time, once you can retroactively look at a series, a lot of the times people be like, this guy got out coached or this coach did well. I think it was pretty down the middle, except for game 6. Maybe it was just more on display there, but oh my God, it's a combination of how much Paul Maurice knows the refs and how much Knobloch doesn't. And it's kind of his lack of experience showing, where early in the game, it became apparent you're going to have to blatantly fucking mug somebody to get a penalty. There wasn't a ton of shit going around because nobody wanted to get that first penalty called on them, but it was clear they weren't going to. And as it got into the second period, the Panthers clearly figured that out, and they were not throwing insane cheap shots, but they were taking liberties, right? They were finishing their checks a bit later. There was a lot of extra shoves that it's like, that's a good shot in the ribs afterwards, but the ref's not going to call that. Not in a game 6. Well, not an elimination game in the Cup final. And the Oilers were clearly afraid to take any penalties, and so they didn't do any pushing, anything. But the Panthers, they were still getting their shots in, they were getting their licks in, but never enough to take a penalty, and it had huge just veteran presence vibes. Like that's the experience that comes with those players being in 3 straight Cup finals and having guys like Paul Maurice behind the bench. And maybe it'd be different if you looked back at the rest of the series now looking for it, but that became very obvious for me as I was watching game 6.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And so obviously the game ends up 5-1 was the final score. Florida Panthers win game 6, win the Stanley Cup. Matthew Tkachuk ending up with the game-winning goal this year. in the Cup Finals. Thought it was going to be Sam Reinhart for a bit until Podkolzin got Edmonton on the board late in the game. But
Yeah, Rippey
Sam
scores
Reinhart,
four of their five and
two,
didn't
two empty net goals, had
didn't
4
get game winning.
goals in that game. Reinhart's 4 goals in Game 6 were the most goals in a Stanley Cup final game in the expansion era, which is pretty incredible. And with that 4 goals, Sam Reinhart ended up with, I believe it was 7 goals in the Stanley Cup final.
I thought you were going to
that
say the
put
playoffs. I was like, no, there's no way.
No, just in the finals.
Yeah, that would have
puts
been
him at
3
the top
outside
of
this game.
the list for most goals in the Stanley Cup final in the last 100 years, tied with Wayne Gretzky and Mike Bossy,
It's pretty good company.
which is pretty incredible for Sam
How many?
Reinhart again.
7 in total?
Yeah. And this is
Dude,
Sam Reinhart, who last year he had the game.
I don't
winning
remember
goal.
his other ones. How many were empty netters? Because obviously 2 this game.
I think just these 2.
Just those 2? Okay.
Yeah. So Sam Reinhart again, he completely balled out. I saw a lot of people saying that. Well, they were more shocked that Sam Reinhart didn't get any votes for the Conn Smythe, which we'll get into in a second here. If I'm correct, and I believe I am here, I think they vote for the Conn Smythe after the second period. So when Florida was like up 3-0, they were probably collecting the votes, like being like, this game's probably over. And if it's not, all right, we'll run it back in Game 7. But I believe they took the votes after the second period. And at that point, Reinhart still only had 2 goals in the game. No one knew he was going to go out and get 2 empty net goals to put 4 goals up in the game.
And I mean, obviously, 4 goals, crazy impressive. You still call it a 4-goal game, but I don't think you should be changing your Conn Smythe vote because of 2 empty netters. He already had the 2 most impressive goals of that game at that point. So I don't think the empty netters would need to change it. I would love to see the voting breakdown, because this Florida Panthers team had, like, I think 6 people you could make a very solid case for. I don't think anybody
Conn Smythe voting breakdown.
They have that, like, for
I got it here.
All the players. Oh, okay, righteous. Let's hear it.
So there was only 5
that got any votes
in the end.
How many votes you get then? Probably 3.
There's 8. Looks like there was 18 voters, and
18.
Yeah, you get your first place, your second, and your third,
and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we know
the
number 1, Sam Bennett, winning the Conn Smythe, ending the playoffs with a total of 15 goals and 7 assists in the playoffs. And I don't know if you caught it, but I caught it. Gary Bettman made that apparent for why I think he won the Conn Smythe by saying
I was shocked.
Scorer.
That's all he said. Like, usually when Vasilevsky wins a Conn Smythe, he goes, nobody since Ken Dryden has won back-to-back in starting every game in cup runs, and then he awards it. Cale Makar, he's like, no, since this guy, like probably like Bobby Orr or some shit, has a defenseman this young won the Conn Smythe. McDavid, he makes this whole thing about, the like 3rd most points. I think maybe the most assists ever in a playoff run. And for this one, it was so short. He was like, it's only fitting that it goes to the leading goal scorer, Sam Bennett. Come grab the trophy. Like, it's almost like
it's really all there was.
Like, I don't know if he forgot his line or if he just doesn't like Bennett and didn't want to give it to him or what.
Well, I think that's all there was. Like, what else is there to say? It's not like he reached some insane accolades of other guys or broke records along the way. Like, it was just straight up, he potted the most goals. He scored some of the most clutch goals for Florida, aside from Marchment. So,
yeah.
I thought you couldn't go wrong with Marchment. And so Sam Bennett does.
I think Marchment would have been my vote, but like 15 goals in a playoff run, like it makes sense.
So it was close. Sam Bennett had 11 first place votes, 7 second place votes, and no third place votes. So he had 76 points. Brad Marchand,
so he was only first or second. Nobody left him off or put him third.
Brad Marchand was second with 68 points. He had 7 first place votes and 11 second place votes.
So
everybody's
everyone
first and
voted one
second
of
vote
them
is either
first or
Bennett or
second.
Marchand, and that's
Everyone
I
else
saw
is
that. I was
third.
like,
Wow.
that's awesome.
I can't
And
believe
Sergei
there's not
Bobrovsky,
one guy who's like, I love the goalies, and if you vote
well,
going into the second, he's going for a shutout in that clinching game.
so Bobrovsky was third, but he only had 10 points because he only got 10 third place votes.
Right.
Draisaitl was fourth with 7 points. He had 7 third place votes, and then there was one guy left who got fifth, 1 point, 1 third place vote. Gustav Forsling. And I love that. I love
Really?
that picking, throwing him in there, being like, you know what?
Was
Yeah,
he even
he
their
had a
best
little bit of a
defenseman?
shaky game one, but I mean, defensively, yeah, he was. You know, I mean, you look in the, you know, I know you probably don't want to hear about it, but first round, Kucherov
Oh
had
yeah.
no goals. Austin Matthews, what did he end up having? 1, maybe
I
2 goals in the second round.
I think he got one. I
He
think it
didn't get
was one.
many. It was just great all around against Carolina, shutting down whoever he ended up against. And then McDavid only had 1 goal. And I don't think Forsling was on the ice for that one even. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. But again, like just a great, solid defensive presence by Forsling all playoffs. So, and the guy probably was like, he's not going to win, but you know what? Give the guy a little bit of credit. Be like, hey, you know what? I noticed you. I thought
Yeah.
what you did was just as impressive as what other guys are doing. And I love that. Why not? Show a little
Yeah.
love to a guy
I'm surprised by that
you know,
that voting,
we always
honestly.
talk about. They don't get respected enough and mentioned the defense, the stay-at-home guys. So
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised that Draisaitl got that many votes and that Forsling got the one there. Like, if I had to pick only 5 guys, like I think Barkov and Bobrovsky have to be in there. Obviously, Bob did come in third.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Kachuk didn't even get a single vote. You know,
Yeah.
There's Sam Reinhart for Hagee even had a lot of clutch goals. Always does. Like, hell, I'm even surprised nobody threw a third place vote at McDavid. Just cause, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it made sense that Marchand and Bennett had all the first and second place votes because it really did feel like it should be down to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
again, I probably it's tough not to, Sam Bennett's obviously a great winner for it. It's well deserved. I probably would have went Marchand just because what he did in
I
the
would
cup
have as
final
well.
was incredible, and some of the timely goals he was scoring and whatnot I thought were unreal.
I think he
but
was easily
again,
the best player in the cup final.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's particularly close. Like, probably McDavid was second.
Unless you're talking about, yeah, I would have had him up there. And again, totally fine with it going to Sam Bennett. Again, if you score that many goals in the playoffs, yeah, I got no issue with you winning it there. A couple of things I liked with the Florida Panthers that I noticed after, winning the cup. Obviously, there's a video out of Paul Maurice on the bench with like 15 seconds left or something. I don't know who all it was, but I'm pretty sure it was, I think, Ekblad, Sam Reinhart. So, first line winger, top defensive guy. And then Yona Gadjevich, fourth liner. He rallies around those guys and says, hey, time's running out. I want you guys to be the last ones out there. You guys have been warriors all playoff long and key parts for us. Go out there and enjoy the moment and be out there when the final buzzer goes. And I thought that was really cool again, being like not just best players, but the guys that really showed up when it mattered and played key roles. Even Gadjevich just for a grinder, I thought was incredible this go around. And then when
He's
they won the
get
cup,
paid when his contract shows up.
He'll definitely get a raise.
Not paid huge, but like I think he's making like league min. Like I think he might be on his ELC.
Yeah, I think he was like what I say 800K or something. And then when they won the cup, they made it very clear it was, Barkov's obviously the captain, first one to get it, but then it went to Nate Schmidt, it went to Seth Jones, it went to all the guys that haven't won a cup yet.
Yeah,
which I thought was really cool, being like, hey, we all did it last year, and guys like Marchand has already done it back in 2011. So it's like, you guys don't have a cup. We want you guys to be the first ones to enjoy this moment. So I also thought that was really cool by the Panthers too. But again, Tampa probably did the exact same thing when they won it the second time. It was the guys that weren't there for the first go round. It's their first cup. Now they get to be the first ones to get it.
I
So, but
I
it's always
think
cool when teams do
so.
that.
I believe yeah, when we won our second one, it went Stammer. I think they went Stamkos, Hedman, and then they went Savard and Colton, because we only had 2 new players on our team from the year before.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Scored the cup winning goal and assisted on it. Good for them.
Yeah.
But
Again, though, I think this Edmonton team, again, they're not far off. Like back-to-back trips to the Cup final, games 7 and 6. You unfortunately just run into this wagon that is the Florida Panthers right now. Like, it was just tough timing for Edmonton. Obviously, the injuries don't help, and you wish the goaltending would have been better than what it was. And I think it's gonna be an interesting offseason for Edmonton. Obviously, we kind of talked a little bit earlier about the McDavid presser, but he's not going anywhere. Bouchard's not going anywhere. Draisaitl's not going anywhere. The boys are going to be back next year, but I'm curious to see what they do. Where do they make those changes for next year?
yeah, and I definitely don't expect McDavid to leave Edmonton until I see some real evidence of it, and him like not signing going into the season, signing that extension that he can do on July 1st. But his comments were pretty incendiary earlier, that like he did a lot of saying it without saying it, and a lot of we'll see what happens with the future. And I'm trying to remember the exact wording, because he gave this like 3-minute answer to one question, which was something along the lines of, what are you thinking about for the future, and are you extending? And he gushed over the organization, said we were close, he got a lot of friends there, etc. But at the end, he did have that, but I want to win. We need I think he said something about managing the assets. Like, it was a comment directed straight to ownership and the general manager. And it just, without saying it out loud, it screamed, you got to get me a fucking goalie, and you got to surround me with guys that can get this done. Like,
yeah, so I definitely noticed that. And obviously you and I and millions of other people aren't the biggest Stan Bowman fans, but a lot of criticism that I kind of see him getting is like, the Arvidsson thing, the Skinner thing. First of all, he wasn't around for those contracts. He joined Edmonton after they already made those moves on July 1st. So and those didn't work out. Those guys were supposed to be, the 2 guys with Draisaitl up on the second line, beefing up that top 6, and it didn't work out. And they were healthy scratched a lot in the playoffs. It didn't work out. But yeah, not addressing the goaltending. Was Stuart Skinner great in the later half of the Vegas series and Dallas series? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, he 2 years in a row, he couldn't get the job done for you in the finals. Had some moments where he looked really good, but overall, it just wasn't going to happen. So yeah, I like that of McDavid. Call him out a bit and be like, fuck, you want me to stay here? You want me to sign for 8 years and try and lead this team? Help us out a bit more now. Like, we just got there back-to-back years. Now we just need a little bit more to maybe get us over the edge. And so that's why I think they're going to be making a lot of moves, because they're going to
I think they are too.
McDavid,
I think he's not going to extend until a couple good moves have been made. I expect them to get those moves done and probably sign him at some point later in the summer, probably in August or something like that, is kind of what I'm guessing. I have the quote here from near the end of that question. He said, "We're all in this together, trying to get it over that finish line. But with that being said, I still need to do what's best for me and my family. That's who you have to take care of first. But of course, there's unfinished business here. So
Yeah.
he says a lot of good things, a lot of positive things about the org, but at the end, he is like, if you guys aren't going to do what's best for me, I'm going to do what's best for me. And that's winning. He wants to win. I don't know if I've ever seen a player want to win as bad as McDavid. I really don't. Like, anytime he's doing anything, he's like the Toronto media on his own to himself. He's sitting there no matter what other people. You just had an awesome 5-point night. What are your thoughts on that? I think it's the regular season. I don't fucking care. Like,
Yeah.
he is so dialed thinking about the playoffs every year now that, man, if they can't get it done with him, like, I would not be shocked if he signed a 1-year, $5 million deal somewhere, won a cup, like sign that with Dallas or Florida, and then wins a cup, and then he's like, okay, now I'll go make more money. Because, like,
That's not taking care of your family. Go and secure the bag.
He's already
if he was to leave Edmonton. Wherever he goes, he
already had an 8 by 12.5, right? He's already got like $100 million.
Yeah. Again, I'm
he's
still
going to make more.
McDavid's not leaving. I always love to like speculate and, you know, what would a McDavid trade maybe look like? Like, where would he want to go? And I don't see it happening again. He wants to win in Edmonton, but he wants to maybe put a little pressure on management to make some moves, kind of get their shit together and help.
They would have to have a not good offseason.
They'd have to have a horrific offseason.
And all we've heard that they want to do so far since the Cup final is we're hearing rumors on a Trent Frederick extension that if it's true, a lot of people are not fans of it. I'm a bit higher on it than most people, but even me, I still think it's fine at best. That's a rumored 8-year, $3.75 million-ish range deal. That's not what they need right now. You need a goalie. Stop spending more money. Go get the goalie, then you spend your money. Like,
and again, if that's the deal they're throwing out, you still got to extend Bouchard, and after the playoffs, you're looking at 10 north of that. So, you know, you're looking at guys like Evander Kane to trade, who's on the last year of his deal. Henrik and Arvidsson on the last year of their deals, but they both have no movement clauses.
So
are they going to be, you know, willing to waive? Or are they like, no, we want to win here? You know, and if they say that, well, then you can't move them, and you're potentially putting yourself in a little bit of a tough spot with your cap space and the ability to bring.
Yeah, Kane has a 16-team no trade, so Kane could be moved
potentially.
Somebody's going to have to want to take that though, which I could definitely see it. He's a good enough player. You get some assets back. Like, how bad do they need to move a guy like Evander Kane? Because he was good for them at points in the playoffs.
Probably need to move him though.
Good goal scoring, but a lot of dumb penalties, and you just want somebody better in that top six.
That's exactly it.
Do you think they need Matthew Savoy?
Do
you think Edmonton needs Savoy? I think that should be the core of a deal to get rid of somebody. Like, I think they should be seeing who's willing to take Darnell Nurse if we strap Savoy in a pick to him.
So I guess it really depends on Savoy. Is how impactful of an offensive player do you think he's going to be? You know, he just spent his first full year in Edmonton. He only played 4 regular season games. He had 1 assist. And in the AHL, he played 66 games and had 54 points. The thing with Savoy is, though, and I think it's kind of why Buffalo was okay moving on from him, is he's 5'9", 180 pounds. He can be a very skilled player, but then I'm also thinking, man, like, if he's in this series playing on Edmonton, getting hit by Florida over and over, you know, I don't care how skilled you are. It's just a fact of life that if you're 5'9", 180 pounds, and you've got 6'3", 6'4" guys, 210 plus pounds hitting you over and over, it's going to be a long ass series for you if you even make it through this series. So I'm unsure on that. I still think he's going to be a good offensive player in the league. But again, it's kind of like I wonder in the playoffs, especially against a Florida team, could he be one of those guys that can play through it and elevate his game and be an X factor? Absolutely. We just don't know.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. We have no idea because we've only seen him play 5 games in the NHL so far. 1 with Buffalo, 4 with Edmonton. So,
and you know what? We've even seen a kind of similar player in recent years like that in Marco Rossi in Minnesota. And last 2 seasons, he's undersized. He's also 5'9", but he's played all 82 games, 40 points, and then 60 this past season. Yet the Minnesota Wild are trying to trade him right now. They're looking for somebody to take him. Shouldn't you want a guy like that? Like
that one's.
He averaged I think 12 minutes of ice time in the playoffs this year. Like they severely limited his playing time once it came to the playoffs. He did put up 2 goals and 3 points in their 6 games. So he still produced some, but
yeah, I'm not sure why they would
even for a guy that's kind of proven, it's still seems like a bit of a question mark for some undersized guys. So it's, if you can find somebody who would really like that player, I think he is a great player to try and attach to a Darnell Nurse. It might be a bit much to attach him to a Evander Kane. Yeah, but try and get rid of some of those bad contracts by strapping some of the assets you don't need now.
So Edmonton doesn't have their first this year, they don't have their first next year. If you're moving Darnell Nurse and you're not retaining, bare minimum, you're attaching that 2027 first or Matthew Savoy to move off his contract.
Yeah, and
that's the reality of it.
If you can do that,
you're gonna have to pay someone to take him.
Yeah, and I think that would be a bad move mid-season.
Willing to eat, that money for that long.
9.25 for 5 years.
Like, oh,
9.25 for 5 years.
That's a lot. And I see people being like, "Oh, Chicago's got money, San Jose's got money." Yeah, but they also have a lot of good young players that they're going to have to pay within 5 years. They don't want to be in a point, Chicago, where you got to pay Lev Shinov, Bedard, whoever they drafted this year, Korchinski, the guy you're really high on, Nazar. Like, you're going to have to be paying all those guys in 2 to 3 years. That could be tough if you're like, "Oh shit, we got this Nurse contract that we're stuck with." So,
but if you're bringing in a Savoy,
it's possible.
It's more enticing. I don't think a San Jose would do it. I think things look too good for them going forward. I don't think they're quite at that point in Chicago, so I could see Chicago doing it if you attach Savoy and a second or something. Of course, that does also mean Darnell Nurse, for any of these hypotheticals, has to accept the trade. Full no move. So you also have to get around that hurdle, but
yeah, with Edmonton, it's obviously the starting goalie. You need help in your top 6. And even when I look at the blue line, like, you're gonna have to pay Bouchard a shit ton of money this year. And then next offseason, Matthias Ekholm's up for an extension and Jake Wallman. And Ekholm, he's only making 6 right now. He'll probably get a little bit less if they do re-sign him, because at that point, he's going to be
35 right now. I knew he was older. I didn't know he was 35.
And then Jake Wallman, obviously, if he re-signs with Edmonton, he's going to get paid. He's going to be getting a lot more than his 3.4 right now.
Yeah.
Unless they trade him with a second for future considerations. I mean, I don't know if they would ever do that. I don't think anyone's dumb enough to do that, but yeah, that's
think, man.
So with Edmonton, I think you need to add something in on your defense on that right side. Starting goalie, top 6 help. It's doable. We've seen teams do it. They just got to go out there and find a way to make it work and find a way to clear up some money.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Still gonna be a good team next year, though, no doubt. I'm not worried.
100%.
About them missing the playoffs or sucking. Like, they're gonna be back in the playoffs next year. Is it a cup final team? Who knows? We'll wait and see what happens. It's a long time between now and then, but they'll easily be back in the playoffs. So definitely a team to keep an eye on this offseason. See what they cook up.
So, say they make a move for a good starting goalie, a not quite elite goalie, but better than your average starter, right?
Say like
A
a
guy
John
that,
Gibson.
yeah, a John Gibson. When they got Darcy Kemper in Colorado, and they were like, he's going to be our goalie for this. They get some equivalent, and McDavid's like, all right, this all looks good. They're clearly putting in the effort. I want to resign. What do you think that deal would look like?
I mean, Dreisaitl's getting McDavid's probably getting 15 to 16. 8-year deal, 16 per year.
See, that's the thing. Everyone's talking about dollars. I think they're looking at the wrong column. I don't think he goes 8 years with him. I think if you want to make money, there's no reason really right now, unless you have a storied injury history, to sign a big deal, because the cap is expected to go up so much that if McDavid takes, and we do know that he so badly wants to win, I think there's a good chance that he'll extend for 3 years, and maybe he'll just go 14. Maybe he'll just match Draisaitl. In those 3 years, the cap's supposed to go up so much. Like, he could already be asking for crazy money, but like he could sign an 8-year by 20 very realistically. Like, that's hot. That's like, he's worth it, but it's a high number right now. I think that's like very in the realm of possibility in 3 years.
You also got to think, though, if you're McDavid, you got to look at previous years and be like, how much is going to be available there for me, though? Because we've seen in the past when the cap takes a jump, teams are like, oh, we got all this money, and then they do stupid shit. Look at Edmonton with the Lucic deal. Look at Buffalo with the Oposo deal. Look at Vancouver with the Louis Eriksson deal. Even the Islanders with Andrew Ladd. Like, just extremely long deals at medium cap hits that are awful after a couple of years. And then you're having to pay to move on from that, or you're having to buy out, and then that needs something more cap long term. I think
even if Edmonton's in that point,
signs an 8-year though.
If
he is staying in Edmonton, and I think he does.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a shocking amount of 2, 3, 4-year deals this offseason, because the cap's projected to go up so much. For guys like, obviously for guys who are like looking to really cash in right now, like Sam Bennett, he's going to sign 8 years wherever it is. Or it's 7, I guess. Because why not? You want to lock in for as long as possible. He's at the peak of his value. He just won the Conn Smythe. He'll never be more valuable than he is now. But like, for a guy like McDavid, like, he could definitely make whatever he wants right now, and then in 2 or 3 years, he can make whatever plus 3. And then times that by 8 for that deal. Like, it really depends. It also depends if he wins in that time.
Yeah, that is like a big thing too, because obviously, I also McDavid's goal at the end of the day is to win a Stanley Cup, but it is to win a Stanley Cup in Edmonton. Like, that's what he wants to do.
I think he just wants a cup. I think he would prefer to do it in Edmonton, but
he definitely wants. That's why he's sitting there being like, if I'm gonna sign here, I want proof that we're gonna win here. He doesn't want to sign for 8 years. Like, he wants to win a Stanley Cup, and he does want to win in Edmonton, but he's not going to sign away for 8 years there if management doesn't show him that they're not serious about winning.
Yeah, if they extend Stuart Skinner before him, they can kiss him goodbye.
Yeah, and I fully expect management to show McDavid we're committed to winning here, and this is our plan, and this is the moves we're doing, and we're going all in to win a cup here.
Yeah, I expect Mitch Marner to also sign probably a 3 or 4 year deal.
Yeah, once I saw that report, I was like, Marner, because that's all he's done is sign kind of shorter. Well, I think he had the 6 year, but always kind of never committed to that 7 or 8. So I could easily see with Marner, especially with the reports coming out.
Yeah, and especially because he'll be how old is he now? I think he's 28.
Probably 28 or 29.
Mitch Marner, 28. So 20. He signs a 3-year deal with a team. He can probably get 3 by 14 this offseason. And then at the end of that, cap's gone up. Probably realistically, he could sign a 7-year deal at, if he's still playing at that level, like 16, 17 mil. Like, who knows what kind of contracts are being given out once the cap has jumped a decent amount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
something
to keep an eye on for sure.
I think overall, to kind of wrap this up, at least this part of the episode, congratulations to the Florida Panthers again. I said it before, I'll say it again. I didn't even have you guys making it out of the first round, and holy shit, was I wrong. The Panthers showed that they were the best team in the league again this season to, win the way that they were, to come back down from 2-0 against Toronto, to go toe-to-toe with this wagon of an Oilers team again for the second year, and I think beat them even worse than they did the first year.
It's so hard to compare the two because, like, it went totally 7, but it was one beat the dog shit out of the other for 3 games, then vice versa, and then the Panthers won Game 7.
Yeah. I thought Florida just played a terrific series. They obviously came in with a game plan, and they stuck to it. They never wavered off of it. They pulled Edmonton into what they wanted to, and ultimately they can say they're back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. I think it's well-deserved. I feel just gutted for McDavid, Draisaitl, the Oilers, all their fans, to come back for that second chance, and everything looks like it's going right for you, and to see it go the way that it did, and backs up against the wall in a Game 6, and you get, in my opinion, just a very disappointing performance by the Oilers. Just has to be a tough one, but yeah, no doubt Oilers going to be back in the playoffs next year. Florida obviously will. Potentially could see these teams go round 3 next year. We'll see it happens. But again, 2 terrific teams, and all in all, a great series.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I want to ask you that is a very strange hypothetical to think about. I have no idea what your answer would be on this. Early in the season, we saw Jim Montgomery be fired from his position as head coach of the Boston Bruins, and I believe it was the fastest in-season signing ever. In just 5 days, he was already the head coach again, this time for the St. Louis Blues, where they fired Drew Bannister to make room for him. If Edmonton had fired Knobloch and brought in Jim Montgomery, do you think that changes the outcome of these playoffs?
No.
It's so specific to try and think about how long is that long enough for him to gel with the team? Does Montgomery's system match up well? I do wonder if a different coach is in order in Edmonton. Like, they've had some decent coaches there, and like I think they've still got a good one right now. But like they've never had those. They've never had a great coach,
Knobloch.
They've gone out and grabbed fine coaches,
but he panics a lot. They go into a game with the lineups. I'm like, I don't even care about the lineups because they're not going to stay the same. He just throws the lines in a blender and panics after they're down 1-0. It's like, if I can stick to the game plan, that's what Florida does, and they're so good at it. They don't get rattled if they go down. They really didn't fuck it all in the finals, but.
And maybe that's why they look so consistent out there. Like earlier when I was saying the Panthers don't ever look like, oh, they're having, like, some games are better than others, but they're never like, they look disjointed. They don't know what they're like. It's because they're always playing the same thing. They're doing the same lines. Like, they actually, they stick to it. They move around a lot.
Was to get fired, you obviously got to run that by McDavid. Like, it's basically McDavid's call of like, hey, is Knobloch staying or going? And if they hire Montgomery, Edmonton might finish top of the Pacific. St. Louis doesn't make the playoffs. Flames sneak into that second wildcard spot. Maybe even the first. They take on Edmonton round 1. They probably beat Edmonton.
Oh, huge.
That's my prediction. If Edmonton
hired
Montgomery,
if they hired Montgomery, Wolf would have the Conn Smythe right now.
Yeah.
Oh, it would have been so good.
Yeah. That's what I'm going with. But again, I don't think the coaching's the the major issue with Edmonton. I think it really
I don't
comes
think
down
it's
to
an
just
issue, but I think it's an
talent.
advantage most of their opponents have over them.
Yeah,
You know?
that's exactly it.
Like you think about
And
all the
Knobloch, I mean,
recent coaches and like that have won the cup in the last 5 years, it's like they're all the most revered guys in the league. And
yeah,
maybe
Knobloch is
that's just
getting his
because
feet wet
they
in the league.
have one now, maybe it's a post them winning thing, but
Yeah, like you look at Paul Maurice, what was it? He's coached like 20 years before winning a cup and then goes back to back. This was Knobloch's first full season in the NHL. Like he's been a coach for
yeah,
a season and a half and he's gone to 2 cup finals, but at the end of the day, great coach, but inexperienced. He's going up against one of the most experienced coaches in the game right now. It's a
ever.
tough
I think
spot.
he's like top I think Paul Maurice is like top 3 all time for games coached. Like
Yeah, it's just a tough spot to be put in, and he'll only get better with time and more seasons under his belt and whatnot. But yeah, it really just it came down to the talent, I think, more than anything, and Florida was just the deeper team.
yep. I wonder if Peter DeBoer would be good for Edmonton. Edmonton already seems to hate goalies anyway. You might as well
Yeah,
bring in the guy who's good at coaching everyone except the goalies.
just let him come in to dog pile on their goalie.
Yeah.
But with that, I
Peter
think that
DeBoer, also the coach that put the sword in Fleury's back. People forget. He's got a bit of a history with goalies.
goalies get better.
Really interested to see where he ends up because if they've got like a solidified starter, it's that guy's got to be looking over his shoulder a little bit.
And we'll talk a little bit about Dallas here coming up in a few. But I think with that, I think that wraps up our Stanley Cup final stuff, our Stanley Cup playoff stuff. It was a incredible playoffs. I can't believe how fast it went by. But overall, it was truly terrific, and I'm already looking forward to next season.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited for next season. It's going to be a long off season.
Long, well, not the longest. I mean, you look at it, by the time people are listening to this on the day it comes out, we're a week away from the draft. Got 3 days in between. All of a sudden, boom, just like that, it's free agency. So the next week's going to be a little bit crazy. We were already seeing some extensions roll out. We're already seeing a trade that we're about to talk about here. And then the draft, we're going to get free agency. It's going to be chaotic. And then we're going to be getting into some fun offseason stuff. We've already been rattling off some ideas, compiling some ideas over the last couple of weeks, months. So we're going to have lots of good fun stuff to rip out during the offseason for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be good. Do some
But
fun
with that,
stuff
I
in the summer.
think it's time to dive into some of these contract extensions and a trade that happened earlier today. Braden, do you want to hit us with the first extension?
So the first one we got here is Ryan Donato signing a 4-year extension with Chicago at an average annual value of $4 million per season. I like this deal for them.
Yeah, I this is great for Chicago.
And I think he could be very good there. At the same time, this is almost so good of a contract that I think it would be like I don't want to try and big brain it too much because teams don't do it very often, but like signing a guy and then trading him, like, man, he could be good for them. But like, if you trade him and retain half of that, 4 years of Donato at $2 million, people will pay some fat value for that. That's real nice.
But again, it's kind of like what we talked about.
I don't think they're going to, but
no, absolutely not, because Chicago needs players.
They do. And they've
you need
said
to
as
start
much.
putting up more wins on the board. Bedard's gonna be going into his 3rd year, end of his ELC. You can't put out another shit roster and just watch him lose every night. When they didn't trade Donato, which I kind of thought they should have at the trade deadline, because they could have got great value. When they didn't, it was you had to find a way to sign him. You couldn't just let him walk for nothing and lose all that value in a guy that 80 games played, 31 goals, 31 assists, 62 points. Will he do that again next year? Tough to say.
Probably not.
Probably not. That's where I'm leaning. But $4 million for a guy that, you're probably going to get maybe 20 and 20 for 40 points or 2025 for 45 points. That's great value for $4 million for 4 years. It's a great guy to help boost their scoring a bit when you're the goal is to make the playoffs next year, but it's to not be just a dumpster fire again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's created this very strange situation in the NHL where all these teams are hitting that point at the same time. We're getting the Sharks, the Ducks, we're getting the Blackhawks. They're all trying to win this season. And like they're kind of trying to build to it next season or last season, but they're really trying to build on it this year. But at the same time, this is a phenomenal year to tank if you're a bottom team because you got a great draft coming up, and it's of course headlined by Gavin McKenna, who looks insane. So it feels like a year where we should be seeing a lot of tanking, but the usual suspects I don't think are going to be the ones doing it. I think it's going to be some teams people aren't suspecting are going to have a very sudden drop off, and we'll all wonder why. But for the Blackhawks, they've even said they're very open to trading their third overall pick because they want, and in return for it, they said they want a good, like, well-performing already roster player in the NHL. Like, they want somebody to play with Bedard now instead of getting a top 3 pick because they're not about that. They've got their guy. They just need to surround him with something. So I'm interested. I'm so interested to see if somebody's going to answer their call on that. Like,
I think teams will be definitely sniffing around. I know I heard their pick could be available for trade. Utah at 4th overall could be available for trade. Boston at 7. So we'll see what happens. Again, I think it's going to be a very crazy week coming up as we lead up to the draft. Moving on to the next extension, we're going over to Ottawa. Recently acquired at the trade deadline, Fabian Zetterlund signs a 3-year extension with Ottawa at an AAV of $4.275 million per year.
That's good. It's a bridge deal.
I'm a bit unsure.
I guess, like I was saying,
it's so
the
tough
3
to
deals
say.
we have here are 3 and 4 years.
Yeah, it's just such a very tough one to say because Zetterlund kind of came in and joined Ottawa, at the trade deadline. And you could kind of see the flashes, but the production wasn't really there. But you flip back to when he got traded from New Jersey to San Jose. And from the trade deadline on, I think in like 20 games, he had 0 goals and assists. And it was like, you can kind of see the flashes from him, but the results weren't there.
Yeah.
Right. So we know what kind of player he can be. And
it's hard to just jump in with a team while they're already going.
Yeah, and I hope that Ottawa gives him more of an opportunity because, again, he was kind of playing like 4th line, 3rd line minutes. Like, I like to see him getting put in more opportunities to succeed. And if he does, again, I think he's kind of a guy kind of similar to Donato. You can probably get 20 goals, 25 assists out of him. You know what? If you're getting 45 to 55 points out of him, 4.275 for 3 years.
I was going to say, you don't sign a guy to that to be a guy stapled to the 4th line or even the bottom 6. Like, you want to utilize a guy like that. So they seem to think they know what they have. We'll see how well he performs with them. I do think he's going to be a lot closer to his numbers with the Sharks. Even a guy like Hagel. Like, Hagel, I think he had like 21 games played, like 4 points or something like that when we first got him in Tampa. Like, a lot of guys, it's just you're on a new team. They've already got a system, and they don't want to deviate too much from that because they're obviously gearing up for the playoffs. Sens made the playoffs for the first time since 2017 here, or 2018 maybe. Like,
they're just trying to stick with.
You don't want to fuck with your power play, your top 6, like none of that going into it, unless you're adding a guy that's like bona fide. So it makes sense that he just kind of sneaks into the lineup. He doesn't fully enter the fold, but I imagine next year he'll have a pretty good year with the Sens.
I think he's going to be a good player for Ottawa, and he brings some of that physicality.
I like the deal.
Which, is much needed. And lastly, we're going to go over to Dallas, where we have a extension and our first trade of the postseason. We got our first trade. Do you want to hit us with the extension here?
Yeah, so that's a Matt Duchene extension. He extended with Dallas for 4 years with an AAV of $4.5 million. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, what did he put up this year? He put up some pretty
fuck me,
decent...
did he? Yeah. Wow, I thought he was like good, but like I thought he was like around 60 points. He put up 82 and 82.
Yeah.
He was point per game.
Yeah, and so obviously the
Jesus.
first thing I see people say, because now people just love to throw it out there because it's just a cheap excuse. It's no state tax. Like, of course they get the benefit of getting on a cheap deal. First of all, Matt Duchene made it very clear that he was sick and tired of being passed around after Colorado. He wanted to find somewhere and settle down, and he thought he did on Nashville. And in the interview, he said when he got the phone call that he was going to be bought out, he was just broke down crying because he loved being in Nashville. He loved thinking he was settled down somewhere and staying there. And then to be told, nope, you're done, broke him, which he's still getting paid for. He's still getting paid by Nashville. So that's why that's why he was taking cheaper money with Dallas there. That's why he still is, because Nashville's fucking paying him to put it up 82 points for a team in their own division.
Oh, and they're trying to participate, or they're trying to be good, but would he have been the top scorer on the Preds this year? Surely he would have been 82 points.
Yeah, would have had to have been.
Like,
and Duchene wants to win a cup. He's happy in Dallas. He fits the vibe there. He loves it there. He wants to win a cup. He sees a path there. You're already getting paid a decent bit of money by Nashville. Take a contract that's good for you, good for the team, and try and win a cup there. Like, I don't see anything wrong with this deal. And people that throw out no state tax, shut up. You're just being a fucking whiny baby. Just go wipe your bum and have a nap.
Like,
I hate it.
It is a factor. Like, to pretend it's not is disingenuous.
No, it's 100% a factor,
but the amount people talk about it, like it's the main thing. Like, it's not the main thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like
you said, if they're a winning team, he's been there. He wants to settle down. So it's got the little triangle on cap wages, this deal. So the full details have not been confirmed, but it does have it currently on there as a full no move, which would back up your thing of he doesn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
He's like, give me good enough money and I'll stay here, and just let me fucking stay here and play some hockey, and hopefully we win.
That's exactly it, right? So
have I been fed Avalanche propaganda? Like, what is this, man? I feel like I've been gaslit about this player, like he fell off hard. Like,
he's just always been just honestly a more underrated kind of stud.
Like, insanely underrated. Dude
goes out there and fucking does.
He's got 891 career points. This guy's gonna hit 1,000 freaking points in his career.
Yeah,
like, people have been talking about him for years, like he's been washed. Bro, he's been great throughout his career. I'm just so shocked that his numbers are that high.
Yeah, dude. People try to like make it sound like he's a fucking middle sixer plugger. It's like, dude, just drop a point per game season.
If he has the exact same season as last year, he's gonna hit 400 career goals and like 970 points.
Yeah,
like, damn. I people kept telling me he's like a middle six guy, and like I just never looked at his numbers. Yeah, I don't know what the hell people are talking about.
He's a beast, but I love this deal for Dallas. I love it for Duchene. Just a great deal all around. And again, Dallas needs to save every penny they can. And that's what gets us into our first trade of the offseason now. And that is Mason Marchment out of Dallas and on his way to the Seattle Kraken in what I put in here. It was a 2025 fourth round pick and a 2026 third round pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this for Seattle. They needed to make some room cap wise, and Marchment's making $4.5 million for the next year. So, you don't hate that deal, but they've got too many good players. You can't keep everybody you like.
You can, especially when you got it sounds like they're not trading Robertson. Sounds like they tested the waters and they were like, all right, these returns are underwhelming. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
But they want to resign Granlund apparently, and I'm
We'll see
assuming
if
they're
they
going to
can do
find a
that.
contract for Jamie Benn, their captain. Yeah, I think he just wants to be a lifer for Dallas,
I would
and
assume so.
he'll probably take a cheaper deal. He's at this point now, he's a third liner guy. Take a bit of a cheaper deal, but like, let's just try and win it. And the path is definitely there. But yeah, I'm right with you. For Seattle, this is awesome. I mean, a third and a fourth for a guy that's probably going to go out there and be a 40-point guy for you. If you're not going to make the playoffs, you can move him at the deadline. You retain half. You're probably getting more back than what you just gave up for him. At the bare minimum, you're getting back what you gave up for him.
Hell, I wouldn't be
So,
that shocked if they've got the room at the deadline to see him head back to Dallas for a couple more picks and they retain half on it, because at that point he'll also be a pending UFA. So, if they have the money going into the playoffs, they don't need to worry about it come free
yeah.
agency. Like
Yeah,
they
I
they're
truly
going to
don't
get good
expect
value out of
Marchment
him to play and when they move him, because
I
I
was gonna
got, I
say,
got
I
to
don't
imagine he
expect
has to get
Marchment
moved.
to finish out this contract to Seattle. Like, by the deadline next year, he will be traded, and Seattle's gonna get more back than what they gave up for him. And for Dallas, it obviously sucks. Marchment was kind of a big part of your core there, which is a pretty massive core at this point. But you needed to open
Yeah.
up money, and that's just the way it goes. Sometimes you got to move guys and maybe get a bit of an underwhelming return, but they need the cap space. They don't have
Yeah.
a lot of money, and so
It's like in the NHL games when you've drafted like 9 medium elite forwards. Like you can't give them all ice time. You got to move somebody.
yeah,
So
it's
he's the odd man out. So
yeah.
I get the feeling, just something about Mason Marchment. This guy's going to end up playing for Florida in the playoffs next year.
Oh, going back to Florida, I could see it.
Yeah,
I could see
they're
him
going to
going
be able
back.
to retain. He's going to be cheap. He's just a guy that just fits their mold. I could definitely see him get moved there, but
I could
until
definitely
then,
see him, yeah, back there with the
good
Panthers. And be a
good
great
pickup
spot
for
for him.
Seattle. Nice clear up on cap for
Yeah,
Dallas. This is a win-win.
yeah, I'm with you. Not much to say on it, but again, it is our first deal of the deadline, so
Going to
that's
kick
worth
off a couple
mentioning.
other deals, hopefully.
Yeah. So before we get our final segment, there was some news that came out earlier this week we didn't talk about, and I want to get your thoughts on it. So we talked about how next year's draft is a pretty loaded draft and obviously highlighted by Gavin McKenna. And when you talk about teams that are going to be kind of probably fighting for that first overall pick, the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be one of the bottom teams down there, kind of in the mix. And earlier this week, it was reported by the Penguins that they've already informed Evgeny Malkin that they will not be renewing his contract at the end of next season. He's in the final year of his deal now, going into next year. And the Penguins have told him that we're not keeping you past next year. And he is 39, but it makes you wonder if we're potentially going to be looking at a Malkin deal, if it means Pittsburgh's tanking, or do you think it's going to be Malkin just plays out his final year and just retires a Penguin?
I think Malkin's the kind of guy that would want to go somewhere else and have one last crack at it in the playoffs. I think, and I don't think it makes much of a difference to Kyle Dubas and Pittsburgh management. Like, I don't think they'll be getting a huge return for him. So they're like, if he wants to stay, it'll make the fans happy. That's fine. But if you want to just move him, get a couple assets, and see if he can win a cup, I think they're fine with that too. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. I do expect at this point that he's probably going to retire at the end of next year.
I think so. Like, he's
At least
what
from
is
the
he? He's gonna
NHL.
be
He
40.
might go play in the KHL or something for a year or
Him and
two.
Ovi. Could you imagine him and Ovi
I
both
was
going to
just about to.
KHL for
I
a year after?
legitimately think they're both going to go play for the Dynamo or whatever, and it'll just be unfair. But
Kind of
they
sucks that we're not going
both
to get
ended there.
Russia in the Olympics and get one final go of Ovi and Malkin together in the
Yeah,
Olympics. Kind of
it.
sucks, but that's the way it goes, I guess.
Yeah, it's. I am surprised that because you just need citizenship to. You just need citizenship to play for those teams, right? Like they've
Yeah.
both lived in America for 20 years. Like, I'm kind of surprised. Are they not? Did they just not want to represent America, or do they not have their citizenship yet? Like, they just never decided to?
Yeah, I don't fully know. I think
Because
it might
like,
be something that's decided, like it has to be decided like well in advance or something. Like it's kind of like how Nylander plays for Sweden. He's got dual citizenship, but I don't think he can just switch and come play for Canada type of thing. I could be wrong though.
I
Maybe
I
I'm
don't
wrong.
know.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I feel like they can. I think most players just don't want to. They just identify
Yeah.
with where they were born and grew
They
up
want to
in all
represent
these
their
situations.
country. They don't want to
Like
play in the
Joey
Olympics
Decord.
if it means
Didn't Decord have an option to play for either? He just like didn't have a passport or some shit.
actually, yeah, you're right.
And
But
you
that
know
was
what?
also Four Nations. That's different
That's true.
from
And I think it is different with Russia
Olympic
specifically
IIHF.
because, you know, we don't have to get into it obviously, but Ovechkin, he's got his parents have a lot of money over in Russia. Like they have huge roots there. He's just such an icon over there that he's kind of got a weird semi in with Putin. Like I think for Ovechkin, it makes sense that his optics wouldn't be wanting to have American citizenship. So like
Mhm.
it makes more sense that they haven't, but I'm just thinking like I haven't heard of any of these players done that. Like, to my knowledge, Kucherov doesn't have an American citizenship, but he's been a Florida man for 12 years or something. Like, none
Yeah.
of those guys have come over and fully been like embracing it's the wrong word, but I guess they just haven't gotten the dual citizenship. Maybe some
I get
countries
where
aren't maybe
you're
some countries aren't eligible for dual citizenship as well. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
about
I'm
that.
not 100% sure, but yeah, just wanted to throw that
But
out there and something to keep an eye on, and we'll see what happens. With Evgeny Malkin,
yeah,
obviously a Penguin for life at the end of the day when his career is all said and done. Like he's going to be identified as a Pittsburgh Penguin, and uh, his number will definitely be
yeah.
up in the
They
rafters.
better keep his pictures on Hockey DB and everything as him in a Penguins jersey. If he goes and
Yeah,
plays for the Stars for one playoff run or something, I don't want to see it be the Stars every time I open that page.
yeah, we don't want to see that shit. That would be wrong.
Iginla in
But
a Avs jersey or something.
oof,
Broder
what
with the
could
Blues.
potentially be. But
Huge
we
end
are
of
at
an era
the
though. If it is Ovechkin Malkin retiring at the end of next year, like that's
yeah.
a lot. I mean, that's 4 Hart trophies over the past
Mhm.
20 years.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's easier when you look back. It's like you know what, you got your 3 cups. No,
Oh yeah.
eventually you knew it
He's
was
done it
coming.
all.
It's obviously tough, but part of the game. And fuck, they'll probably get rewarded nicely with a Gavin McKenna next year potentially.
Yeah.
But we've gone through congratulating the Panthers on the Stanley Cup. What Edmonton needs to do, recent extensions, Marchment deal, Malkin and Pittsburgh. We are at the end of the episode. Braden, what I have here for you today, nice and simple, not too tricky for you, is a blind ranking.
Okay.
I have 5 of the past 10 Stanley Cup champions. And all you
All
got
I
to
got to
do
do
is
is
just
rank them.
rank them 1 to 5 on who's your 1, who's your 5. You don't know who's coming next. Pretty
Best team,
simple.
best run, just kind of in general.
Yeah. With the
However I want to
best
take it,
construct.
best to worst.
Yeah. Yeah,
All
pretty
right.
much, yeah. Starting off, you knew we were going to start here. 2025 Florida Panthers.
2025 Florida Panthers. It's a very good team. It's hard to say whether or not they're better than last year or not. But I imagine there won't be repeat teams on here if I had to guess. I'm going to put them at. Is that crazy? That's a bit much. Oh, that's a stack team. I'm going to put them at 2.
You're going to put them at 2. I
There's
think
not
that's fair.
there's actually not an insane amount of teams considering it's the last 10 years because we have had 3 back-to-back cup winners in that
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. So you're putting the Panthers at 2 here.
Yes.
Next, we have the 2016 Pittsburgh Penguins.
2016 Pens. It's a very good team.
The first of their back-to-backs. I don't know who they beat that year, though. Fuck if I know.
So
But they
long
won
ago.
in 2016.
I'm trying to do the math on who I think in the last 10 years because it's not a lot of options, so I can kind of gauge what you're probably going to put in. I'm going to put this team at 4.
Put it at 4. I don't hit that spot. Next up, we have the 2019 St. Louis Blues.
I was no disrespect, but I was saving this spot for one of two teams, so they can go comfortably in 5th.
What was the team you? What was the other team?
I also would have put the Capitals there.
Well, next on the list, we got the 2018 Washington Capitals.
I didn't love that look. Oh boy. I mean, I've only got 1 and 3 left, and I just said I wanted them at 5, if not the Blues, so I can't put them at 1. So I got to put them at number 3. And I don't think that's incredibly off. Like I think they are above the Blues. I think I would prefer the Penguins and the Capitals team there to swap, but I think it's close.
And at number 1, the 2024 Florida Panthers you have there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I had the 2020 Tampa Bay Lightning. They were the
2020 Tampa Bay Lightning. I think
2020.
I think better than the 2021 roster.
I think so.
I can't remember because we had Verhaeghe for that one, which is big, but we didn't have Ross Colton yet.
And Verhaeghe fucking didn't even play in the final game.
No, that's
how stacked that team.
That's why they're number 1, dude. The Panthers had to play this guy on their first line. We couldn't find room for him.
So your final ranking here, you got the 2020 Tampa Bay Lightning 1, 2025 Florida Panthers 2, 2018 Washington Capitals 3, 2016 Pittsburgh Penguins.
Well, you don't have to laugh at them.
St. Louis Blues at 5.
Okay,
you're
that's
in a
pretty
bit of a
good.
tricky spot. Once you put Pittsburgh at 4, I'm like, uh-oh.
I was expecting
one of them's going above them.
I was expecting either the Avalanche. I was really expecting the Avs with an outside chance on the Golden Knights. And I would have put either of those teams at 3, and I think I would have had a perfect list.
I was thinking about throwing the Avs in there. Honestly, Vegas didn't fucking cross my mind.
I kind of figured it was mostly the Avalanche. That's why I was thinking at the start. I almost put Florida at 3, just because I was trying to think if I would take them over the Cup-winning Avalanche.
Yeah,
because their top guys were just so unreal. Rantanen, McKinnon were just unreal, but they weren't that deep. So I think that was a good ranking.
Yeah, I think you did a great job overall. So I guess to wrap this up, we kind of talked a little bit about it earlier today, but we'll kind of let you guys know what's going on. We're at the end of this episode here, wrapping up the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Again, incredible playoffs. But for next week on Tuesday's episode, we will be back and we will be doing kind of a full season wrap up. We'll kind of be going through all of our predictions we made at the start of the season, comparing to, from all the standings we did to who we predicted at the beginning of the year was going to win the Stanley Cup. All the individual awards will come back and compare notes. We did predictions there
before the playoffs as well.
Yeah,
we can look at those.
We can take a look at that as well. We'll be covering any signings or trades that happen in that point, if there's any, which I imagine there'll be at least something. And then a week from today, Friday's episode next week, we will be doing some of our kind of free agency predictions and what we think we could potentially see. And again, probably covering whatever else is on the go there. And I did mention it before, but I have been working on a full first round mock draft for this year. Draft again will be a week from release of this episode. So if you want to get a sneak peek at that, it'll be up somewhere on the socials. I don't know exactly where, how it's going to happen, but that's where you're going to get access to it. So if you do want to see that and whatnot, keep it on the socials there.
Yeah, we'll probably put something together and put it on the YouTube as well. See if we can get up on there as well.
fuck around with that and see if we can make that work. This was our second full season of doing this. We
Damn.
started at
It went by fast.
right. We started right around the Stanley Cup final in 2023 for Vegas, Florida. So our second full season. All we know is Florida Panthers in the Cup final on this podcast, and more often than not, the Florida Panthers as Stanley Cup champions.
No, yeah, it's been
could be doing it again next year. Could be a different story. We'll have to wait and see.
no, yeah, like as far as the results, like my biggest rival twice in a row. Then before that was your biggest rival. Like, can we go back
Vegas fans
to?
love me now. Well,
Can we go back to when the good guys were winning? What the hell?
the villains always get their wins every now and then, and we got to just tip our hat and say, well done. But that is it for this episode. Again, wrapping up the playoffs. Incredible year, incredible season. Again, if you want to join in on the hockey conversations, if you want to give us any of your free agency predictions or draft predictions or anything, you can do so by reaching out to us through any of our socials. Links to all the socials are in the description across all episodes, across all platforms. Braden, for the final time for this NHL season, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. It's been a great year. I don't know what's going to happen in the offseason and going into next year. But if Malkin's on the move, maybe he'll get packaged with Crosby and they'll both end up in Colorado.
Damn.
Could you imagine a Crosby and Malkin trade at the same time? Even if they're both past their prime, like that's insane.
That would be pretty crazy. But we've seen crazier things happen before, so it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But one final time, that's it for this one. Hope you all enjoyed. And as always, we will see all of you out on the ice next week.